So now we are writing the final test of the same use case, which is the integration test for the controller. So let's set up the class. So first we have to define Spring Boot test. We have to provide the web environment, and we are telling it to use a random port to run this test. So it means that actual container will be launched, a web container. Again, this is not the Docker container. This is the terminology that Java is using from quite long. Application container which has the beans in it, and the web container which has servlet in it. So we wanted to run the web environment uh, with a random port. It will also initialize the Spring context. It will also initialize the database context as well. So everything is functional, everything is provided, but it would be running in a test mode. So when it is running in a test mode, it will use application.properties of the test folder in the resources folder, where it will launch the in-memory database and create the schema and everything in it. Here we have just created a class movie controller integration test, and we auto configure mock MVC, and then just we auto wire mock MVC. So that's the simplest setup. Integration tests are really very easy. Once you have configured it correctly, we don't have to mock anything. We just call the API here, and we expect the response as 200. Previously when we were expecting here, we have already mocked it. So let me show you here. So we are first mocking the response and then calling the API in the unit test, whereas in the integration test we are not mocking anything, because we know that it is the test which is integrating multiple layer, which is actually running on integrated layers. Like from controller, this call will go to the service, from the service it will go to the repository, and the repository, it will read from the in-memory database and return the response to us. So let me show you the code again. Here is the controller. Previously we were just writing the unit test, and that's why we are mocking the service here, the dependency. But this time we haven't mocked anything, so call will go to the movie service, then make a call to the repository, and it called the find by ID, which is the CRUD actually operation, one of the CRUD from the repository implementation, and then it will return the result. So all these controller, service, and repository, let me show you the repository. So Spring Boot has also has empowered us to just create an interface, tell what is the entity class and what is the primary key type, and based on that it will provide you all the required CRUD operation like find by ID, create, update, delete. All those functionality are provided automatically, so you don't have to write this code. We don't write unit test for the repository because it's just an interface. That's why we wrote the integration test for this single interface, if you remember one of the previous episode. So yeah, that's how we call the API, then we are expecting the real result. So this movie should be within the system, within the in-memory database, and it must have been initialized in the data.sql. So we can see here the Titanic movie, and then we can verify the response here. Okay, so these are the session. That's conclude like how we wrote different 5 tests for a single use case, for a single flow at a different level. So if you don't have time, if your company does not allow you to write tests, and if they are not giving you the time, so you should give time yourself from your time, because you don't want to test it again and again and again. If there happens a change, you don't want to be shaky, you want to be fully confident. So write integration tests. Those integration tests are really simple, they are fast to write, they are fast to set up, and it will cover more code, so it will increase your coverage, so you don't have to write all the test cases. all the unit tests for the REST API, because these are just single method which are forwarding call to the other methods or other classes. So you must write integration test. So here we have seen that we wrote all the tests. These were three layers within single service. So we divided our test into integration and unit test. And integration test, you can see I wrote one for the controller, one for the repository, one for the service. And finally we wrote some unit tests for the controller and the service. So unit tests are more workable, usable, where there are multiple lines of code in a single method, or if it is a utility function. But if it's just forwarding the call to the next and next layer, so you should write at least integration test. If your company does not allow you to waste time on the test, then you should do from your own time. It will save your time, it will give you the confidence. So write integration test, it will give you the coverage and everything. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, take care, bye.